got a ton of wisdom and a lot of golden nuggets to share with y'all. So let's give a big, warm round of applause for Axel.
Thank you. My bad. Had to get set up. All right. 88%. Studies show that 88% of us rely on imagination to generate new ideas and solutions. But only 25% feel that they are actually reaching their creative potential. That is the gap between thought and action. Tonight, I want to flip that script. We're not just going to imagine, we are going to build. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever turned something imaginary into reality? I was 21 when I first experienced this. The year was 2013. I had just graduated uni, and two of my closest friends and I had decided to put on a free talent show at Ottawa. Why a talent show? Honestly, it's probably because they were dancers and they just wanted a stage to show off. But we also knew quite a few artists around us, so we figured it would be cool to bring everyone together for one night. So we held auditions, we had to manage a few artists with big diva energy, and despite having little to no event production experience, we did the damn thing. So I imagine some of you have seen those videos of Drake coming down the steps of a venue to start his show with all the guests grabbing onto him. Yeah, we even scripted a moment like that for our headliner. So clearly, Drake owes us 10%. The audience, they had a blast from start to finish. As we were chatting with them after the show, without fault, the recurring question in each conversation was, when is the next one? To hear folks wanting more of something that was imaginary a few weeks ago was very empowering. It made me forget all the emails, meetings, text messages, and phone calls leading up to the event. We sought out to create a night where talent was showcased, and we ended up creating connections between everyone who was in the room. Some people went on to collaborate on other projects. Some were solicited for other shows. The ripple effects were almost instantaneous. But most importantly for me was the realization that I had a knack for this. I saw the power in building something from nothing. That night, an event producer was born, albeit a baby one at the time. I fell in love with the process of ideating, designing a plan, and executing it. The one night in 2013 was the beginning of my journey as an entrepreneur and an event producer. And in everything from that moment led me to Pieces of Us. Now, as a performing poet, I attended quite a few open mics in the city, pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. Poetry has saved me from myself more times than I can count. And like all creatives, I take my art seriously, and I want to be treated with a certain level of respect and consideration, especially if I'm going to be bearing my whole soul to strangers. What I noticed pre and post pandemic was that for the most part, artists weren't always taken seriously at these events. Organization wasn't always what I felt it should be. And ultimately, it left me feeling like I was not really being taken seriously as an artist. So, naturally, in July 2022, I said, fuck it, I will create my own space. The kind of space that a type A overachiever creative could really appreciate. I wanted to work closely with artists to make sure they had what they needed to deliver their best on stage, to be inspired by each other, and to ensure that guests appreciated and respected them. I had considerable experience in the events and entrepreneurial space by then, and I had built a decent-sized network since 2013. So I called a few friends. I shared the idea with them. We worked out a budget. We fine-tuned the idea together. We quickly booked artists, secured Happy Goat on Hopewell as our first venue. Shout out to Happy Goat on Hopewell. We rented equipment, and 4 weeks later, Pieces of Us was born. We sought out to produce high-quality, theme-specific, art-focused events where artists and guests felt valued and could connect and collaborate with each other. And that's what we did. So it started as a passion project, but the response from the art community, it was so swift, it was so overwhelming that we had to quickly create systems to sustain our desire to offer this event monthly, while all working our 9 to 5s still. But the 9 to 5s allowed us to bootstrap our operations and fund everything out of pocket. We reinvested all profits back into the business as opposed to paying ourselves. We wanted our creative baby to keep funding itself, especially as the community that we were building had appropriated the platform as its own, and that really meant everything to us. So, to keep up with the demand and our vision, we held weekly team meetings to plan. Many of us took our work vacations around various pieces of us episodes, and one Thursday a month, we knew that we were in for a very, very long day. Honestly, it was pretty tough. It was pretty tough. It was pretty tough balancing it all, and none of us had any experience running a monthly event while balancing life and other responsibilities. But personally, me, once I commit, and I hold myself to pretty high standards to execute at a high level. That can probably be attributed to my growing up in New York City. The city moved fast, and if you weren't moving with it, you were simply left behind. The art of the hustle is really embedded in the city, and sacrificing personal time just to get shit done was a foregone conclusion. Oh, my bad. That's New York City. Looking back, looking back on some of our earlier days with POU, because many of us on the team were also good friends, despite not having a clear roadmap of where we were headed, we trusted that there was a reason for the journey. We learned a lot. We leaned a lot on each other to keep moving. We constantly shared ideas and creative ways to improve our event. And most importantly, we led with kindness. It was also helpful that once a month, without fail, every single time, the doors would open for another episode, the magic was immediately felt. The room was buzzing, and everyone was ready to be amazed by the talent on stage. The community came, they came in ready to sing, to snap, to laugh together, to cry together, to hold space for one another. And as great as it has been building the POU community, there are a lot of challenges behind the scenes. We were constantly ideating to keep episodes distinct in feel and offering, constantly pumping out marketing materials on a month to month basis. We had a core team member leave and had to figure out how to fill in that gap. We managed the occasional decline in guest attendance while failing to break even at times. And in my role as a lead organizer, the pressure of steering that ship through each storm, it was pretty darn overwhelming. But so long as we still believed in what we were building, I would keep showing up for the team every single time. And it was honestly easier to keep showing up because the community kept growing. The more episodes we hosted, the more attention the platform received. So much so, so much so, that we decided that it was time to further expand it. So, first step was to create two new platforms to diversify our offerings. So, Deeply Rooted and 613 R&B were born. Deeply Rooted is a live talk show style event designed to document life, share knowledge, inspire through thought leadership and conversation. Our first one focused on folks who were wanting to pursue art as a career path, but managing external pressures to chase more conventional career paths. As for 613 R&B, though, low key, that was more for me than anyone else. I've been a huge fan of R&B music, and I've always felt that it was an underappreciated genre. But as it turns out, a large part of our community were fans of R&B too because the response was absolutely wild. There wasn't enough capacity to meet ticket demands. And with the help of my co-producer Meryl and our entire team, we produced 3 highly successful shows in Ottawa in just 6 months. And with that confidence, we felt like, yo, it's time to further expand, you know? So we decided to take 613 R&B on the road. Montreal was a destination, June 7th was a date, and from a guest experience perspective, people had an amazing time. And the reviews were nothing but positive. From the team side, if the term hard work had an older sibling, this undertaking was that and then some. We put in months of planning, marketing, emailing, texting, calling, meetings, and guess what, y'all? We failed. We failed. We missed the break-even mark by quite a bit. The attendance, though high, it was not our norm. And here's the thing. Here is the thing. When you are hot shit in your city, you start believing in your own press. You start thinking, yo, we're killing it here. The folks 2 hours away, how could they not love us? In a bigger city, too? And you know what's worse? Do you know what's worse than facing in real time that you're not as hot as you thought you were? Having to come back and report on it. Ottawa already had thoughts and feelings about us tackling this tour. They were excited, but they felt a little left behind. And naturally, when the dust settles, everyone asks you the same question with excitement in their voice. How was it? Anticipating a positive response because how could it not be? Our response? It was an experience, which was the truth, but also a way to avoid crashing out when reflecting on it because honestly, the bank account was nearly depleted. Our hopes for touring our best produced show had just gone to shit. Morale was pretty low. And at that point, it was only June. It was only June, which meant that there's still half of the year left. And despite really wanting to give up, we needed to keep the business going. On a personal level, that L deeply affected my mental. As the person in charge of logistics and operations, I felt a personal heightened sense of responsibility to lead us to success, and I felt like I had failed everybody. I had this feeling of emptiness that I couldn't explain. I had worked literally the hardest ever in my entire life. I put my personal well-being to the side. I averaged very little sleep. I did so much research, all to contribute towards putting together and executing a plan that we felt was super duper solid for absolutely nothing. At least that's how I felt initially. So you couple that L with the L's that we had taken in POU, and yeah, we needed a break. I needed a break. And so that's what I did. For about 3 weeks, I ghosted pretty much everyone. And I began introspecting, reflecting, writing things down. 3 weeks may not seem like a lot to you, but it is a shit ton of time to me. I had read in a book once that there's often opportunity in every challenge. Even if you don't see it right away, it's there waiting to be found. After sitting with the big feelings for some time, and with the help of my therapist, shout out to Jermaine, I realized a few things. First and foremost, I needed to tone down the main character energy by a lot. Second thing was that none of us had ever actually been in this position before. I've also never led a team this big before at this frequency with so many moving parts. It is a lot. When we started this thing in the coffee shop, we couldn't have imagined being here today. We were building the plane while flying it, learning and unlearning things. So I needed to give myself more grace. I've also learned that everything is really just a matter of perspective. It was a difficult pill to swallow for sure, knowing that I had sacrificed so much of my last 3 years. I regularly dealt with and continue to deal with the feeling of loneliness when leading, and imposter syndrome being the reliable friend that I never asked for. But building from the ground up, that is about resilience. It's about finding ways to move forward in the face of adversity. That is the real hard work. It's not unlike the gym if you think about it. Like, hard work is less about running the fastest or the hardest or lifting the heaviest weight, but more about the incremental concessions made to keep showing up day in, day out, despite that little voice trying to tell you to not do so. Because there's value in showing up and celebrating yourself for it. So, once I got past the doom and gloom, gratitude set in, and I started to think about all the incredible opportunities we have had in 3 years. We've worked with over 200 creatives from various artistic disciplines and backgrounds, many of whom have now become friends. And with the help of two incredibly talented creatives, Kenza, the creative producer, and Fate, the cinematographer, we created a visual podcast series through Pieces of Us with 8 monthly episodes to highlight fashion as an art form. We worked with a Juno-nominated artist, now 2-time nominated, Luna L. We were also interviewed on CTV Morning Live and CBC, and we also created the Share Your Piece Fund, which is our way of supporting artists in their work through a grant. We also worked with the Ottawa Blackjacks, the city's basketball team, to curate 5 of their halftime performances for home games. And while reflecting on everything, though culture ties had already started taking shape, it was during the break that we finally had the chance to more seriously build out the brand. Now, despite the setbacks, one thing that was always clear was that in the event space, we knew what the hell we were doing. Testimonials were always the same. These folks, they know how to get it done and do so at a high level. But in applying our creation and production skills to our own events, it was only when other businesses started reaching out that we realized the power of what we had built. Now, granted, deeply rooted and 613 R&B, they were both vital to keeping our community engaged. But we started to be a little bit more strategic with the way that we leveraged our ecosystem. So, while generating opportunities for us, we could generate opportunities for others as well, whether internally or if we were hired for our services, we could recommend, we can connect, or we can hire folks as needed. The business model really started taking shape. And with that, we have our event production and entertainment branch where we can continue producing our own shows. We have our community branch where we could keep giving back through community-focused activities, and our services branch, where we could leverage our network, our knowledge, our skill set to support the needs of other businesses or individuals in marketing, media, and in event production, all of which were fundamental to our mission, vision, and values. The more we diversified our activities, the more it was clear that we needed to consolidate everything under one umbrella. Something that could highlight the rich cultural fabric of our community and our disruptive ways of approaching entertainment. Culture, purposely misspelled to represent a very deliberate choice to play this media and entertainment game by our own rules. Ties, because without a focus on community building and creating lasting connections, you can only go but so far. Though, we're still working out the logistics of, an official launch for Culture Ties because it's a little slow, but presentation matters. But also because we all have 9 to 5 still, and we are very keen on keeping our sanity. So, speaking of 9 to 5, speaking of 9 to 5s, though I love my government job and my colleagues, balancing a job and a business, it's a lot of adulting, almost too much adulting at times. And I've definitely learned many lessons along the way, some of the most important including developing systems, especially for repeatable tasks, staying active for sure, and self-care. My therapist, he actually told me that self-care is a right and it's not a privilege, and that nugget of wisdom alone is worth the cost of what he charges me hourly. On the business side, I've learned that transparency isn't optional. It is essential. I used to really struggle with delegation, but letting go has actually led me to becoming better at the art of leadership. You never truly master leadership, but it does get a little easier. The more practice you get, the better you get at putting the puzzle pieces where they fit best, not where you wish they'd go. On the personal side, I've grown more patient, and I'd like to think that I'm a little bit more emotional intelligent today than I was before. And while I'm still figuring out this path, I'm learning to work more regularly with the tide, not against it. I'm learning to delegate and trust others more, to celebrate myself, my wins, our wins, more frequently, to reflect more regularly on the road traveled to help inform the road ahead. So, the reality today is that Culture Ties is no longer just a name that we came up with as a holding company. It is a creative baby. It has crawled, it has taken its first steps, and now it is walking. We're not in full sprint just yet, but we are well on our way. We hope to continue building bridges between communities and doing really dope shit in the process. So you came here tonight to hear my story and those of my fellow panelists. I think I can speak on behalf of them when I say that we are truly grateful for your time and for your support. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you are here. So, when you do get home tonight, I would like you to reflect on this. When your story is told years from now, what will they say that you created? What would happen if you trusted the leap instead of fearing the fall? And my last question to you is what will remain imaginary if you don't choose to make it real? Thank you.